Welcome to another round of salty takeaways and bitter ends, and there's probably going to be some of that as we discuss the 1-0 loss to Charlotte FC at Bank of America Stadium in front of a crowd of just over 31,000 on Sunday afternoon. And consider this your prelude to an overreaction Monday at 9:05 Eastern, as both Jason and myself will be calling in and checking in from different locations inside the city of Charlotte, within the Charlotte itself. Jarrett will be back in Atlanta as we get you ready once again for discussing what happened here as these two teams face each other for the second time in rapid succession here in 2022. Once again, we got a 1-0 loss on the board, and it came from an Olympico from Alcivar on a corner. And catching up with Brad Gazan after the match, it was certainly wind aided. Let's put it that way. When you talk to Brad, Brad says that kind of the wind has been giving the folks problems in diagnosing ball trajectory and things like that, and ball track. And so it kind of did some funky things in the air as it was headed his way. And so Alcivar ends up with an Olympico off a corner. And that was the one goal in the match. And it gave Charlotte FC all 3 points as we discuss it here. Let's go through the numbers, and we'll go through some of your responses on Twitter. And thanks to everybody who chimed in on Twitter, by the way, to ask your questions as it came in. And I know that Colonel, one of yours was about the particular play from Alcivar headed toward Brad on the corner. But let's take a look at the numbers on the board for the starting 11 for Atlanta United. Dom Dwyer finished off with a 6.5. Marcelino Moreno an 8.1, Thiago Almada an 8 even. In the midfield, Brooks Lennon a 6.4. Amar Sejdic got the start. He punched a 7. Santi Sosa 6.7. Andrew Gutman on the left a 7.3. Your three center backs, Miles Robinson a 7. Alan Franco a 6.8. Atlanta's Alan Franco a 6.8. George Campbell also that. And Brad Guzan, wore the captain's armband, had a 6.8 as well. Breaking down Marcelino Moreno's numbers on the day, you look at what Marcelino did in 90 minutes, and it was 3 shots on target, 1 shot off, 4 of 5 on his dribble, 64 touches, 26 of 30, 87% on his passing on the day. Crosses, he was 0 for 4, but he was 2 for 3 on his long balls, 11 of 17, 1 on ground duels, 2 for 2 in the air, so a total of 13 of 19 on the day, just over 65%. And he was fouled once, which once again is a bit of a misnomer. He had 1 foul, was fouled 6 times. And then you look at the other numbers, 2 interceptions and a tackle. Thiago Almada on the day in his 90 minutes on the board was 1 shot on target, 2 off, 70 touches, accurate passes, 49 of 56, 88%. Once again, these numbers courtesy of our friends from SofaScore. 2 of 4 on long balls, 1 for 1 on his crosses, 4 of 6 in the ground duels that were won. He was fouled 3 times on the day, had an interception and a tackle, and we'll get into the team numbers in just a little bit. Let's get into the substitution numbers courtesy of our friends at SofaScore. The team had a 6.93 on the day. Caleb Wiley came in for 10 minutes to replace Santiago Sosa, and Caleb Wiley played left wing in an offensive substitution, had a 6.8. Jake Mulraney replaced Amar Sejdic in the 60th minute, played the final 30, had a 6.4. Franco Ibarra had a 6.8. Ronald Cisneros had a debut, only had been really with the club 4 or 5 days when it came to practice and trying to get concepts down, had a 6.6 as he replaced Dom Dwyer, who put in 65 minutes on the day. And looking at Cisneros' numbers in 25 minutes, and I know that one of the thoughts was also about Cisneros, 8 touches and 2 of 4 on his accurate passes on the day as he was trying to be a catalyst up top, 1 for 2 in his duels on the ground. Fouled once in his 25 minutes. And obviously, folks are going to be anticipating a lot from Ronaldo Cisneros going forward. Looking at the team statistics on the day, and we'll take it in the full 90 minutes here. So let's go with Charlotte in the full 90 minutes with 51% in possession to 49% for Atlanta United, 16 total shots to 15. Atlanta United had 6 shots on target, therefore, and they had 8 off target, and 2 were blocked. 4 blocked shots for Charlotte on the day. They only had 4 shots on target to Atlanta United 6. Fouls on the day, 17 fouls called on Charlotte, but only 3 yellow cards on the day. Atlanta United had 9 fouls and the 1 yellow card that was called. Atlanta United had 10 shots inside the box over the full 90 minutes. And passes on the day, about even in their numbers. Accurate passes, 82% for Charlotte FC, 85% for Atlanta United. Long balls, 24 of 55 for Charlotte at 44%, 24-47 for 51%. Crosses, 9 crosses for Charlotte FC out of 22 attempts at 41%. Atlanta United at 4 of 13 for 31%. Atlanta United on the day, 8 of 18 on their dribbles, 44%. And only successful for Charlotte, 5 of 13. Charlotte actually lost their possession more times than Atlanta United on the day, 130 to 114. Atlanta United won 50 of the 96 duels on the day, but Charlotte, because of their height, and we mentioned this when it comes to defending set pieces and having that kind of confrontation as well on the day, aerials won. 13 of the 21 aerials were won by Charlotte FC on the day. 20 tackles for Charlotte FC on the day. For them, it was 20-18, if memory serves, when it comes to the margins that we're discussing. 13 of 21 duels won in the air. Tackles, 20-18 in favor of Charlotte FC. Also 11-8 in interceptions. Atlanta United clearing 21 on the day, and 15 clearances for Charlotte FC. So one of the other storylines, obviously, that folks are probably gravitating toward a great deal has to do with Alan Chapman, the center ref, who he had a bad day. And that's probably the best way to describe it, considering how persistent infringement was not called, specifically in the second 45 minutes. And there should have been yellow cards probably a lot sooner on Charlotte's Alan Franco and Brant Bronico and on Christian Fuchs, yet it took quite some time for those yellow cards to be administered for Fuchs, for Bronico. Jalen Lindsay had his yellow card as well that was a part of the discussion, but Alan Chapman just had an absolute clunker of a day and let a lot of things go early and allowed Charlotte FC to be very, very physical, whether it's pulling shirts, grabbing hands, grabbing arms and elbows, making sure that Atlanta United was being stunted in their offensive attempts. And it was just very, very frustrating. Atlanta United, seeing this, had to answer to that. And once again, we talk about how it was in the second 45 minutes, where Atlanta United was in control of the match. It's just that you had opportunities. You had Dom Dwyer with an opportunity in his 65 minutes that went from across the goal mouth from left to right. That was a chance for Dom. And then there was also a Dom Dwyer header that didn't quite have enough on it. It ended up going wide, if memory serves, there as well. And you had other chances that were available for Atlanta United that were just wide. Caleb Wiley had a chance late when he checked in late in the 80s, and it was just wide to the far post. So the opportunities were there. The Dwyer opportunity back in the 23rd minute, and Christian Kalina had to come up big with some saves along the way as well for Charlotte FC. And he is once again proving his worth as an acquisition for Miguel Angel Ramirez. And once again, credit to Charlotte for becoming better and better and better as things have gone along here. And Miguel Angel Ramirez has done great work with a roster that had not been fully and completely laid out. And you're still looking for resources, I'm fairly sure, if you're Miguel Angel Ramirez going forward. But credit to Charlotte. But once again, this is another example of a game that turned on an Olympico and it was even pretty much the rest of the way through. So you end up with a 1-0 result, and you look at the standings in Major League Soccer in the in the East, and as things stand at the end of the day, Atlanta United is in fourth. It's their second loss of the year. They have 10 points, and the only thing that is keeping them out of third is goal difference. Red Bulls 3-1-2, same record as Atlanta United, but Red Bulls have a +4 in goal difference. Atlanta United even Steven at 9-9. Charlotte has already got to 7 matches in the barn, 3 wins, 4 losses, no draws, goal difference of -2. So they are at 9 points on the year. So Philadelphia won 5 of their first 6. Orlando at 3-2-2 is in second, only a point ahead of Red Bulls in Atlanta, and 2 points ahead of Charlotte. But at the end of the day, even with the win for Charlotte, Atlanta United is in fourth place in the East, and you do not have all of the pieces that you would like to have. You had about 3.5 traditional starters that were out in Joseph Martinez, Mateus Josechu, and Ozzy Alonso, that was a part of the brigade that was not starting as well. So, and Luis Arujo. So you had Joseph, Arujo, and Ozzy and Josechu that are still not a part of your lineup going into this match against Charlotte. And we've seen what Ozzy Alonso has meant to Atlanta United early on this season. And, with that form, then you have to find it in other places. And so you're finding it in folks like Amar Sejdic, Santi Sosa getting healthy. And, he spent a lot of time out there against Charlotte FC in this match. And so Santi Sosa getting to full song. And so you still don't have this group. Emerson Hyndman still rehabilitating. And so hopefully his activity will be coming up around the corner. So all of these missing parts and moving pieces that Gonzalo Pineda is having to work to go on a game-by-game basis. It's a challenge for him, challenge for the staff, and trying to work things on a game-by-game basis. So once again, Charlotte with the win, but once again, they're in fifth. Atlanta United is in fourth. So when you're sitting there and you're wondering about things, just remember everything that's not there for Gonzalo Pineda and Atlanta United, in addition to what is there on a weekly basis. And so I know that some of you, just to kind of wrap things up quickly here from Charlotte before we get you ready for Overreaction Monday. Once again, thanks to everybody who has chimed in on Twitter at Soccer Down Here, just to kind of give their thoughts after the match that happened. And let's go with the Swixter. And you're discussing things. You're looking at the Swixter's comment, the fact that people are blaming at B. Gazan for that goal is my Atlanta United. #salty take at Charlotte FC. More specifically, Jordi Alcivar scored the most difficult goal in professional soccer. Stop it. And also, as a part of the discussion, Emilio Corsi, and going back and forth with folks, with the Colonel, who had a lot of stuff, a lot of questions. Colonel wondering if the Charlotte goal should have been saved, could have been saved. The keeper had no chance. Once again, Colonel, going back to your thought, if you're a keeper, you obviously want to save each and every opportunity that is given your way. But when you have tricky conditions, and if you listen to Brad Gazan on the full-time report, he addressed those tricky conditions. And so would have liked to have been saved, sure. Could have been saved, perhaps. But once again, you had Brad had chances, but once again, it's something that kind of takes off on you, and you're how to sit there and you're trying to figure things out. So should have been saved, perhaps. Could have been saved, possibly. But once again, the biggest thing is in tricky conditions in that lower bowl today, specifically with Charlotte, it was wind aided, and you get what you get from Alcivar. So J-Rob, the Soccer for Good OG, Jill Robbins, how does Atlanta United deal with other teams brutalizing them with the apparent blessing of Pro, clearly trying to play their game, only results in Atlanta United getting fouls called against them? Do we need a hatchet man, nasty lessons, a big hairy chip on our shoulder, or formal complaints? Jill, I think that when you look at what Atlanta United is doing, you had folks like an Ozzy Alonso that would help you out in defense in the midfield, and he was going to be there on the flip side of things to remind officials, I guess. It's like, okay, here's what's going on, and here's how we're defending against it. But I think that pro is not necessarily blessing what's going on, but I think that the way to look at it is once again through the prism of this particular match. And Alan Chapman was, to say the very least, uneven in how he was calling the match, because you had all of these opportunities with physicality from Charlotte early, and it wasn't addressed. And so as someone who has seen the game as much as you have, I would look at it this way, Jill. If you're playing a match and you're sitting there and you're tugging a jersey, you're grabbing a hand, you're grabbing a forearm, grabbing an elbow, spinning somebody around, grabbing their upper arm, grabbing the back of their shirt, and it's not getting called, I'm going to continue to do that until it gets called. And so when you have someone like Alan Chapman, and I guess this goes back to our initial discussion about things here in the match, that with Alan Chapman specifically, it was very, very uneven in his administering of whistles / fouls / yellow cards. And you sit there and if you're Charlotte, you're going to continue to get away and try to force the issue against a faster team. Flat out, Atlanta United is a faster club. Atlanta United wants to get at you from the wings, and they want to attack, as we noticed the first time that these two teams were playing. You want to run at Christian Fuchs. You want to sit there, and Fuchs was protected this time, which once again meant that Charlotte was not going to be as aggressive offensively. But the biggest thing, you don't necessarily need a hatchet man, but defensively you have that, and you can take your pound of flesh coming back the other way. But the way that Atlanta United is predicated to play, you're going to have teams continue to do this. And against DC United, yellow cards were given early. So that meant that DC United had to adjust their way of play. They were not given. Fouls were not whistled as prevalently. Cards were not given as consistently. Persistent infringement apparently was just something that's on a page someplace. And if you're not going to get that whistled, you're going to continue to do it. And I think that it literally is, it's not through the blessing of pro, but in this particular match in and of itself, Rockin' Robbins, it's just one of those things that you just sit there and you would have liked for it to have been established early on that this was not going to be accepted. And it was. And then you have Alan Chapman go back the other way in the final 30 minutes, start calling things a lot tighter. And then you end up with yellow cards being brandished, rather quickly for things that were built out of nothing. So it was just, you do you is probably the best way that I can describe it, OG. And you hope that once again, the way that your style of play is, that it is recognized more for what we saw against DC United and that even-handedness in administering cards and fouls and such, as opposed to the other way and working it to where you're having to fight uphill and get things called when they're certainly not getting called to the extent that they should have. Excuse me. So yeah, long-winded answer. Short answer to return, OG, is you do you, and you're hoping that matches are called more like DC United's match than they are against Charlotte, which was dealing with the extremes of how you get to adjust versus having to sit there and have things called the way that they were. Back into the Colonel's questions, wondering about Caleb Wiley coming on too late about, right? Should have stayed on the bench. No, Caleb Wiley, once again, Colonel, as we look at things, I thought that Caleb Wiley was once again yet another substitution that should have been called, and it was called within a sequence. And you go by your gut when you come and you're looking at things through Gonzalo Pineda's eyes. You want to bring in folks, and you're bringing in very, very aggressive changes when it comes to your lineup card, and you're looking at how you want to do things with your substitution pattern. So you look at your substitutes, and Jake Mulroney coming in for Amar Sejdic, that was an offensive substitution. So Sejdic, who was helping him out in the midfield, gets pulled for Jake Mulroney. That's an offensive substitution. That's bringing in speed to try to get an equalizer. Ibarra coming in for Atlanta's Alan Franco. What you were doing there, once again, was advancing a substitution. Ibarra is going to help you more in the midfield, more of an advanced position, with Alan Franco being one of your three center backs, which you had initially. You had three center backs going up against the two up top for Charlotte. And, we've talked about in the past where you want to have one more defender than your opposition does attackers. So you have Rios and Swiderski starting. So that meant you had three center backs. But as you're trying to get the equalizer, this was once again an offensive-based move where you pull a center back. Sosa would end up dropping back a little deeper, as he did for the following 20 minutes, to help defend, and then working Ibarra up as a part of your midfield going forward. Cisneros, you had an idea for your striker that you didn't know how many minutes Dom Dwyer was going to give you. Cisneros, he was going to give you something. You didn't know how much. And so striker, you're helping out there as well. And then bringing in Caleb Wiley, once again, it's an offensive substitution. I know that Tyler Wolf could have been a part of the discussion as well, but, you're just going by feel in that case. And so you take Santi Sosa out with 10 minutes to go. You bring in Caleb Wiley. You put Caleb Wiley on the left, thinking that might be something to help you out there. And so Gutman would end up being your left back, and Caleb Wiley comes in just to give you 10 minutes of sprint. So it could have been Wiley, could have been Wolf. I'm attributing it to Gonzalo Pineda's feel in that particular moment. So I thought it was fine. You have one more offensive substitution in the bank, and so you sit there and you opt for one over the other. So I thought, much like the third bed, it was just right. And let's see, John Nason, I don't think Pineda was fast enough in recognizing Almada should move central in place of Marcelino Moreno. Once he did, there was an immediate impact, just not enough time to produce. Also, with 5 subs now, halftime subs should be a weapon that need to be used in games like these. John, I agree that halftime, sometimes you go with a substitution at 45 minutes. And once again, I think that you want to give your offensive weapons a chance. And I think that having Thiago Almada available and making sure that he was going to integrate, I think, is going to be key. So what you don't want to do is take the ball away and work Marcelino Moreno away from what your initial ideas were, and then have Thiago Almada as a part of all of that process. Remember, I think that the game was fairly even just outside of that one moment with the Olympico. And so I think that going into the second half, I think that you sit there and you look at what you've done, you make some adjustments, and then you saw, starting in the 60th minute, Gonzalo Pineda making the adjustments that he was making. Yes, if things aren't working, I think that halftime subs should be a weapon, as you say. But I think that in this particular match, and as even a match as it was, and then in the second 45 with Atlanta United, I think in control of the match, I think that we saw Thiago Almada being that straw that stirs the proverbial drink that we like to talk about. But yeah, Thiago Almada was there, and I thought that once he was creating along with Marcelino Moreno, I think you saw some things that Gonzalo Pineda can use going forward. But yes, Thiago Almada is going to be big for this team going forward. I agree with you about substituting at 45, but that's, I think, if things aren't going your way. I thought that this was an even match going in, short of the one moment, and it's information that you can use later. So I'm with you at 45. I think that in this case, with what we saw, it was still an even match, and the stubs started to go at 60, and you needed to chase it with 30 to go. Colonel asking if Cisneros starts ahead of Dwyer against Cincinnati, probably, would not surprise me. But at the same time, you want to give Dom Dwyer that opportunity to, as the player who has been here the longest, and Dom Dwyer had his moments. He had the one shot in the 23rd, and he also had the header that was a chance as well at Kalina. And so I think what you want to do is give Dwyer that chance. Cisneros, if Gonzalo Pineda feels that as you get in toward the Cincinnati match, that things are comfortable with having him start up top, then he starts up top. So it's just something I think that you go with this week of practice, and then you see. how it looks with Cisneros and Dwyer up top. Scott at Scott PO50112. Oddly okay with the result. Disappointed? Yes, but okay. Cisneros looks like we have a truly dangerous replacement for Joseph and Almada Moreno, really figuring out how to play together. Add in Araujo and Heineman once healthy, and this looks like a top 3 team in the East. Absolutely right there with you. Once again, as I was talking about a little earlier, just remember the pieces you don't have and how close they are to getting things together, because I don't think that you've had all of your pieces together practicing once this season to this point. So, yes, I mean, it's a loss. It's a loss against a rival, and I know that folks will carry that as well. But at the same time, yes, to your point, Scott, everyone's figuring out how to play with one another. Cisneros definitely does look like that he is a great pickup and a dangerous replacement. So Nathan Pugh, rubbish that, referring to the match in and of itself. Yes, in its moments, and especially with the end result, definitely rubbish that with a 1-0 loss. And let's see, also on the board, yes, Emilio, we talked about the save, and I think that officially catches us up with everything here on the Twitters. And once again, thanks to everybody who was part and parcel to us here with the Twitter discussion as we get ready for an Overreaction Monday. What I will do is, with these questions on Twitter on Overreaction Monday, I will have Jason give his answers as well. And so Jason and Jarrett could give their answers on an Overreaction Monday to what I've given in my answers going forward as well. So that is salty takeaways and bitter ends for a 1-0 loss in Charlotte from Charlotte. As we get you ready for an Overreaction Monday, I'm just John. Thanks for hanging out with us here on SDH. We'll catch up with you on Monday morning.